Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Blizzy, and I'm coming at you live with another story. And today we're going to be talking about another story with Amy and Ashley from my previous video. I was just thinking, maybe I should expand a little bit on some of the great times that we had as a little squad, as a little fam. This is the 2018 squad familia. So let's get down to business and let's get cooking with this. So if you listen to my last story of how I got robbed by a stripper, you would have heard a little bit about Amy and Ashley. And Amy was a stripper, and Ashley. Oh wait, yeah. I think Amy was a stripper, and Ashley was the friend. But let me just tell you about a couple of our stories. So let's start out with the night we met. So I knew Ashley for a while. We had gone to school together. We haven't talked much, but we knew of each other. We had mutual friends and all that kind of things. But Amy, I hadn't really seen her much at school. I have one memory of maybe seeing her in the hallway outside of the Spanish classroom. But that's about it. But later on, they come to my house senior year. Amy was already graduated, but Ashley and I were in the same grade. So they come over. We hang out, we smoke. My homeboys are actually kind of like jealous and upset about it. For some reason, like I don't know why. But moving on from that, I ended up tattooing Amy, and she ended up spending the night, and then we ended up hooking up and having an incredible story together. But me and Ashley, we had a lot of good stories too. And one of which was, we were driving around Arlington, Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys Stadium is, where they play. Because I'm a Dallas native. And, me and her were just driving around. We ended up getting Waffle House together, And, it was a good time. We ended up, like, one of my favorite memories of her actually was, crazy enough, me and her were playing Barbie Girl, the song, because she was a pretty little blonde girl, and she knew it. And we were just smoking a blunt, we're playing Barbie Girl, and then weirdly enough, we ended up taking all our clothes off and just being naked in the car, driving around, dancing to music. And the only song I really remember from that day was Barbie Girl. And I actually think I have a video of it, if I gotta be honest. But that was one of my favorite memories of Ashley. Another great memory I have of her, and obviously her titties, was so it was me, Amy, and Ashley. We're driving around in this yellow Pontiac G6, fly like a G6. And we're on a back road smoking a blunt, like we always were. It was 2018, we're 18, 19 years old, going crazy, and just feeling the freedom, smelling the freedom in the air. And Ashley decides to go in the sunroof and take off her shirt and start dancing around, jiggling her titties around, and that was a great time. And actually, Amy was a lesbian, so she took that opportunity to pull her pants down. She pulled her pants down, and we just, she was just in her panties dancing around, like jumping around the sunroof, going crazy, and I couldn't be mad. I was just sitting there like, damn, look at her go. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And actually, one of my favorite stories involving Ashley is when my friend Christian and I, we took Ashley's vape and dab pen. It was one of those big box mods, back in the day, those big ass ones, bro. And this was the nice one, bro. This one was like $280, $300. Her little man at the time gave it to her for free. You know how simps were back in the day. And then me and him climbed my roof and then went to the highest peak on the roof, and we were smoking her vape and her dab pen and stuff, and just goofing off, bro, being fucking goofy goobers. And actually, we dropped the big ass like $300 vape, and it slid down my roof, got all scratched up, hit my fucking my gutter and bounced off and then hit the ground, man. And then we also dropped the dab pen, but that landed in the gutter, so we had to like kind of crawl down the roof a little bit and go grab that. But hold on, let me make sure I'm using the right microphone real quick, because I think I'm using my lower quality mic real quick. 1 second. Okay, so the audio quality should be greatly increased by now. I was holding this like freaking like $180 microphone for no reason for the past couple minutes, thinking I was telling the story. But in reality, I was using my shitty mic that was on my laptop. So, nevertheless, we grab her vape and we put it next to the bedside table because the house I was living in at the time, the house I grew up in, had 7 bedrooms, and she was staying in the platinum bedroom. And we ended up going putting her $300 vape back on the nightstand, and it's all scratched up and fucked up. So she wakes up in the morning and she starts screaming and just yelling at everyone and screaming at Christian, saying that you fucked up my shit, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. And then I'm just like, like, I'll go take responsibility for this. And then I text Christian and I'm like, just tell her I did it, bro. And then she comes over and knocks on my room. And then I'm like, I'm with Amy at the time. So I go up to the door and I open the door, and then she's like, "This is my vape. What happened to my vape?" I told her, I told her what happened, and I was like, like, I'm sorry, that was me, like, I'll take responsibility for this, like, because it was my responsibility, like, I could have stopped this, but, we were goofing off, we climbed the roof, we're hitting the dab pen, we're hitting the vape, and, it slid down the roof, we didn't intend for that to happen, but that's what happened, and then she just smiled, tilted her head and goes, "Okay, thank you." Like, I think because I was king of the house and had like, like all the social power in the group, um, she was okay with that because I mean, women are wired a little different way, and when you have power and influence, they act a little differently. But that ended up going pretty smoothly. But man, like I saw this girl getting stretched in the platinum bedroom. Like I walked in there and my boy James was, having relations with her, and they were completely naked, and I saw their grip on that stuff. And actually, one day, my mom, she comes in the room and she's screaming at everybody, and actually, she's screaming at Ashley and James, and she says, "Stop nutting on my sheets. I clean those things. They're expensive, and I left that room clean, and I don't care if you fucking come inside her. Just stop coming on my fucking sheets." And my mom was like never home at the time, like this was my house my senior year. So, we're all just like, oh, well, shit. And so yeah, like whatever. So, moving on a little bit, there was a great night where me, Amy, and Ashley, we actually got, I think it was one of our first zips we got with each other. We all pitched in. I didn't really pitch in, I just had the house and the means um to peddle the weed. So we got a 1 ounce of gelato, the most premium weed we could get back in the day. To this day, it's still my favorite weed, just because of the sentimental value. But I remember, beautiful night. It was it was either May or early June. I think it was May. And it was just me, Amy, and Ashley in the cigar lounge, and we're sitting on the ground. I roll each of us a 1 gram pearl. So we already smoked 3 of the grams of this 28 gram ounce. Eating into our profit margin, and it was a beautiful night. Like we actually went to the store and bought gelato, the ice cream. Like gelato ice cream, and they fed me gelato and we smoked gelato, and it was a beautiful night. It was one of my most treasured memories from back in that day. And I would kill to go back to that day, just me and the girls. But Overall, that was a short-lived experience, like, um, Amy and Ashley, we ended up all living at, Amy's house, I hope I'm getting these names consistent. But, we ended up going living in Amy's studio apartment in Arlington, and, Ashley I mean, I feel like I'm keep switching up these names, but honestly, whatever. Um, so let's say Amy's the stripper and Ashley's the girl with the vape, right? That was showing her titties everywhere and whatnot. So, I wasn't having sex with Ashley, all right? I was having sex with Amy, you know? I swear I'm getting these names switched up, but fuck it, whatever. Um, so we end up living in the studio apartment together, and shit, what was it? Yeah, Ashley, like her mom, which was one of the biggest like nuisances to our group. Like her mom actually came to my house and threatening to call the police because she smelled weed in the house, and I just look at her like, like I didn't say this, but like my dad was a cop, like I know the law, and then she was just screaming and being like, I'm gonna call the police and my daughter's in there and blah blah, blah this and you're gonna get arrested. And I was like, yo, like number one, that's not gonna happen. Two, I'm not gonna get arrested. Three, like, why are you yelling at me? I'm not your daughter. She's the one who came here. I'll go get her and you can talk to her. But you're not gonna stand here and threaten me on my property at my front door. You're gonna show me a little respect. I don't care how bipolar or schizophrenic you are. All right? Your daughter's in my house and she's safe. She's actually safe, so you're not going to treat me like this and threaten my freedom, just because you're upset at your daughter. I'll go get your daughter and you can talk to her, but, whatever. We're not talking about her mom. We're talking about these girls. So, here, let me light up a cigar real quick and I'll get right back to the story. But we're all living in the studio apartment together. We're living the That 70 Show life, watching That 70 Show, throwing little parties. I have about 7 girls. I say about minimum 2 to 7 girls every night at the crib in this tiny little studio apartment, and I'd bring about 1 to 3 of my homies through. You know, but those were some of the greatest memories of my life, if I gotta be honest. It was short lived, it was wonderful, it was beautiful. But that's not the point. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But we're here telling stories about Amy and Ashley. So eventually, Ashley goes fucking crazy and she starts just bitching at Amy and I, which, I understand. We're living in a studio apartment. We got 2 beds in there, and me and Amy just can't stop freaking effing, you know? And like even in the morning when everybody's like asleep, we're like, let's get one in real quick. But turns out Ashley was awake and she really didn't like that shit and she thought that shit was gross. But in reality, I know Amy wanted it too because there was multiple times we hung out alone and I could have done whatever I wanted and she gave me the green light, but I was like, nah. I don't know why. I think I just felt a sense of validation or a huge boost in confidence saying no to girls that wanted to F me. Um, and it was really stupid because it came from this song where it was like, what was it? She wanna fuck, but I won't let her. And it just felt so powerful. It was from this actual rap. It was from this rapper called Demotus. He was a SoundCloud rapper, and he actually killed himself in his apartment. It really kind of broke my heart. I found out about that kind of recently. He's a little brother that raps too. I hope he's alive. Nevertheless, um, so time goes on. Ashley ends up moving out. And it ends up just being me and Amy, bro. And then I would have Isabella come over and stuff like that. I'll use a different name for her in the future because I'm going to use her in a different story. But overall, it was just me and Amy from then on. And actually, no, no, no. The homecoming girl came over, and she's the one who ended up splitting up me and Amy. Um, but fuck it, whatever. But yeah, that's the story of me, Amy, and Ashley. There was some more times in there, but if you guys want me to dig a little deeper and find some more stories about Amy and Ashley together as a duo, I will. But I'll leave it off with one little bonus story. So Ashley had this really good smoke spot. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'll have to ask my friend later. But it was like this secret little spot we had in the back of our town, and there was a hammock. Oh yeah, I think we called it like the hammock spot or something like that. But it was this little cove that we had, and we'd go and hang out there, and blah 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 blah. It's just this chill little spot to smoke at, and they mainly smoked at it when my house wasn't available, so I didn't go there too often, but I went there often enough. And maybe I'll do a little vlog sometime and show you that spot when I'm back in town, because I am back in the general area that I had a lot of these stories in. I'm just a little bit farther removed because I'm at my dad's new crib, probably about an hour and a half away from there, which sounds pretty far, but I'm just on the other side of the metroplex. Um, but man, I miss those girls, and I miss it when we were just a little squad. And one day when I have a bunch of money, I'm gonna pay them all. Man, I'm gonna pay all of these people that were here back in the 2018 days, the 2018 squad, the 2018 family. I'm gonna pay all of them to just be in the same room again and sit down with them and hopefully smoke a blunt and just be like, hey, like, I love y'all and I appreciate y'all. And I know things are kind of crazy when we were young, but man, that was the greatest time of my life. And I'm so thankful that I got to meet y'all. And I'm so thankful I got to share memories with y'all. And I just want all of y'all to know that I still consider y'all family. Like, I may have been a little crazy at the time, a little unhinged, but fuck it, man. Who of all of us wasn't, bro? We were all insane. We were a bunch of misfits, a bunch of outcasts, you know, fucking ex athletes, ex dancers, ex cheerleaders, ex computer nerd, whatever it was, man. We were family. And fuck, man, I still love every last one of y'all. And I can't wait for the day I can pay all of y'all to be in the same room again. And I just pray to God all of us stay alive. And honestly, all of us are alive right now. And we got out of the risky era of our life. So it's probably pretty likely that all of us will be alive when I'm able to get the money to bring us together, because I know that I'm gonna have to pay some money to get, especially those two girls, back in the same room, um, with each other and me. But yeah, that's a little story about Amy and Ashley. I haven't quite decided on a name for this video, but thank you for tuning in, and share this with some friends, leave a like, leave a comment. Thank you for everything. And I'm gonna call it a day, and that's the story time of the day for today. Y'all have a wonderful night. Leave some cool comments, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye bye.